Hello and welcome to For Traveling Teens. My name is Shae Pepper and I'm the Traveling Teach. Before we jump into this episode, I just wanted to give a little bit of an explanation and an apology for the lack of Season 2 in 2022. We had a great turnout in Season 1 with over 18 different interviews recorded and posted. However, while I waited for more and more young people to find the podcast and jump at the chance to share their stories, I got very busy. While I was waiting and hoping for new learners to join in on our podcast, I ended up training for something called Ragbri and spent many hours on many different days training on my bicycle to ride across the state of Iowa, which I did do in July of 2022. Besides being busy with that, I had my classes, travels of my own, and unfortunately, the podcast just kind of moved its way down the priority list. But still, I was actively trying to find young people to interview. I was only able to get 2 new interviews this year in 2022. And I had 2 interviews left over from 2021 that I wanted to share with you. So over the next 4 weeks, I will be posting these as a very short season 2 of For Traveling Teens. It's my sincere hope that those who hear this podcast would love to share their stories with me and will reach out at thetravelingteach.com/contact in order to be featured on the podcast. In the meantime, I can't wait for you to hear Luna's story. This is part 1 this week, and then next week will include part 2. Normally, at the end of our interviews, I pick out something from the episode and I highlight it for you. Well, I'm not going to do that this time. You're just going to go ahead and hear Luna's awesome stories. But next week, after the second part of her interview, I will jump in with some really fun facts and information for you. So I hope that you enjoy this episode of For Traveling Teens and the other episodes to come. If you're interested in being interviewed for the podcast, please reach out to me at thetravelingteach.com/contact. Without further ado, here is Luna's episode. Hello, and welcome to this episode of For Traveling Teens. I am very excited to introduce you to Luna, a new interviewee on the podcast here and currently traveling abroad. So I can't wait to hear some of her stories. So, hi, Luna. Can you introduce yourself to us?
Hi, my name is Luna. I'm 13 and I am currently in Costa Rica.
Ooh, what's your home country?
I'm from the United States. We reside in Houston, Texas, sadly.
Having been to Houston, Texas, I think at least it's better than living in Dallas or better than Midland.
I can probably agree with that too.
All right. So, Luna, let's jump in. Why do you like to travel?
I think the main intrigue for me is honestly the cuisine. I've always loved food and I like to be able to taste lots of different traditional foods from around the world. So it's always been really interesting to be able to taste things. And I get asked that a lot and it's always kind of funny to be like, I just like the food. But it really is something that I find very intriguing about traveling.
And listeners of our podcast will know that I am absolutely all about the food. So I have a question later for you about adventurous eating, and I can't wait to hear your stories. So what is your favorite way to travel? Like if you could just pick, what would be your way to travel? Boat, car, train, plane, emu?
My favorite way to travel, personally, is definitely by speedboat. I love the way the wind feels, and I love being able to look down into the water and such. The rest of my family doesn't like it so much, but it's always been a favorite of mine.
Have you been on many speedboats?
It really depends on where we're traveling to. Like this trip, we've been on several because there's just so much water everywhere. So we're just surrounded by ocean. And there's been a lot of time to be on boats, especially when we were on an island. So there's been a lot of traveling by speedboats, and I've just liked it more.
Cool. I love boats too. I typically don't really consider myself someone who gets seasick. Like I love water and boats and never really have much of a problem. But we did whale watching this week actually in Seattle, and we took a huge catamaran and it went 40-45 miles an hour, and we were doing really good until we got near the whales, and then it was very choppy and we had the engines turned off because the whales are nearby. and everybody on the boat was a teeny bit queasy. But it was definitely, it was super fun, although it was very, very windy, as I'm sure you can guess. We were like, this is what it feels like to be Truffle sticking her face out the window. Because our dog doesn't really like to stick her face out the window over 50 miles an hour. And we were like, well, we can see why. Because at 45, like our friend lost his sunglasses over the edge. He was like, oh no, someone's sunglasses just blew away. And then he was like, oh wait, it's my sunglasses that just flew away. So it was definitely crazy breezy, but I still loved it. I still loved every second of being on that boat.
That's awesome.
So how many states, countries, or places have you been to already in your life?
So I honestly like can't say for sure, but I think like the roughly it would probably be around like 18.
Wow, that is awesome. Have you been to more countries or more states?
More countries actually.
I've had a few episodes with young people like that. So, why do you think it's important for tweens and teens to travel away from their home?
Mostly like experiencing other cultures and lifestyles is really important for understanding people and being an educated, like compassionate person, especially in your adult life, knowing how people live. And the memories and lessons you gain from traveling are a lot richer than anything you can buy in a store. So it's always like really amazing for someone to be able to do that kind of traveling and gain those experiences.
Absolutely. You are so wise, Lena. So, what is your biggest travel dream? Where is your bucket list item? Where is the place that if you go there, your whole life is made?
The one place that is like highest on my bucket list is Tokyo, Japan. I really like appreciate the culture and I want to like immerse myself there at some point in time. But it's always been like a place that I'm just like so excited about and like just very high up there.
So, is it? This is just based on other people's interviews. Tokyo has come up a lot on our
Mhm.
this question for our listeners. Um, is there anything about anime that you like as well, or is it really just more the Japanese culture and the Japanese people and things like that?
For me, it's mostly based on like the Japanese people and culture, but I also do really have like a big appreciation for anime and things like that. However, like really wanting to go there is mostly based on wanting to immerse myself in like the traditional culture.
I like it. Yeah, probably I would say almost half probably of our interviews so far. This is the big travel dream. I'm excited about going to Japan. I only went through the airport once and it looks amazing. I really want to go to the Hedgehog Cafe. My goals are a lot less thoughtful and cultured than yours. I would really please like to pay $20 to play with a hedgehog while I drink cocoa.
That does sound really like just wonderful.
I know, right? Everybody's got these cat cafes and all this stuff. No, I would please like to go to the Hedgehog Cafe. So we're talking about kind of like your trips, your dreams, your thoughts of this. How much input do you have or like to have when your family is planning a trip?
Not that much, really, but it depends on the trip. Like sometimes we'll be able to pick the house or the houses we stay at, or we'll pick a city we want to stay in for a little while. But it's more like every once in a while. We usually just kind of get told we're going on a trip and then we get the details later. So, like, my mom is very spontaneous and she's the trip planner. She is always the trip planner. No one else, like, interferes. Usually she'll ask questions and then that's kind of how it goes.
Do you like that that's how it goes, or do you wish you had a little more input?
I kind of like how that goes really because I have like a hard time really like having details that I want. And I don't know. I like to have things planned ahead of time because I like to be able to just kind of go off of something and not have to worry about like the details that I would put in normally.
Cool. Nate, who is a previous podcast interviewee and will be on again in a couple of weeks, he loves to be part of the planning team. Him and his mom are the planning team. And so he has spreadsheets and he has websites and he has many, many things ready to go. So it's very important to him to be able to plan. But I wasn't sure in your family, how many siblings do you have?
I have three.
I thought, okay. I wasn't sure how much input you had or liked to have. So, when you pack for a trip, and I know that this is any kind of trip or travel. I know that you all are kind of on a bit of a long haul travel kind of agenda right now, but you're still going to have to bring what you bring. So, what are your must haves when it's time to pack? I mean, obviously, you got your clothes and stuff, but what are those couple of special things that are unique to you that you're like, this has to make the suitcase?
Um, like I wouldn't say it's like super special. My laptop is just like absolutely something that always has to go because one, since I'm homeschooled, I have to take my school with me wherever I go, and it's all digital. So my laptop is used for school purposes and it's also used for Netflix purposes. Um, Things like favorite skin products, headphones, obviously, definitely a must have when you live in a big family and you kind of have to like be able to feel more like you have privacy whenever you're watching shows and stuff like that. Um, what else? Gum always has to come with me because like there's a very specific brand that I like to take, and there is like a very specific flavor that sometimes you just can't find anywhere else. So I always have like a stockpile of gum in my backpack. Sketchbooks always.
Are
Very
you an
important
artist?
detail. I would not say an artist, but I do like find comfort in the arts, I guess.
Anything else you can think of?
Hmm. No, not really. I tend to have to like kind of keep my bags kind of compact and such because we usually do backpacking. So it kind of like aside from the actual necessities, like say, my toothbrush, my clothing, things like that. There's not like usually all that much room for kind of things that you'd usually want to bring with you. So I can't bring my whole bedroom with me, sadly. But there's a very specific few items that usually come.
Ah, so I was laughing, trying to be silently laughing to myself. My husband, Stephen, also has a very specific type and flavor of gum. And he also always has it with him. The number of times he has to run back into the hotel room or the car to get his gum because he forgot it is like, because he's got it in his pocket, but it'll be like low. And he's just, yes, he always has gum with him. So when you were like, it's a very specific type and a very specific flavor, I'm like, I know, because my husband has the same very specific feelings about gum. As someone who is gum neutral, I enjoy it occasionally, but it is not something that I go out of my way to have. It makes me giggle a little bit, but I like that I have finally found someone else who is very gum specific. So what is your brand and your flavor? Which one is the one?
I always have to take extra with me because everywhere I go, like out of the country, it is very hard to find a lot of times. Like just the regular like extra like strips of gum. Like you can't usually find them like where we are. Like I searched every single store in our area where we are right now. There is no extra gum.
Oh my god.
So I usually just have to take, the regular extra spearmint with me. But it sounds so generic, but when you think of it, we only really have that in the US. So no matter where else you go, like I have not seen it.
Yep. Trust me. Oh, when we lived in Thailand, there were things there that I was like, like I said, I don't particularly have a thing like that, but like I do love chocolate. And so, especially in Asia, chocolate is a little bit different if it's not imported. It's not quite as sweet and things. And so it was very like, I need to go to like the Western stores downtown and get like the specific kind of chocolate that I need. And I checked the back to like see if it was packaged and like made in Asia or if it was made like in the US or Canada or Australia and sent over because I have very specific chocolate needs, but I don't carry it with me. But yeah, I do. There's definitely different flavors of things around the world. So I heard you say you like gum sticks. Steven is a gum like tablet person. So he doesn't
Oh.
he goes for little tabs. And so he pops them out. And then when he's done with a piece, he puts it in and he chews gum 24/7. He's from the moment he wakes up to the moment he goes to sleep, he chews gum unless he's eating. So yeah, he loves gum. But yeah, so thank you. That is super interesting. I am not someone who is gifted with drawing. That is a skill that I work on occasionally for fun, but is not something that comes very naturally to me. For me, my must have is a camera. I have to have my good camera. I enjoy having my phone with me on days where it's just not practical to have my camera with me. But yeah, I recently just bought a new, little bit smaller camera bag so that I can take my big lens in a smaller bag and not have to carry my second body and my three other lenses and things like that, because having my camera with me is really important. So that's one of my two carry-ons when I go places is my camera bag. So.
That's awesome. Like it's always like I think having something you can capture moments with is always like super important whenever you're traveling. So whether that's a phone or a camera, I don't have a camera on my own. My mom does, and she does like to take photos. But I have a phone that I use just as well. So I've always liked it as well, being able to take pictures of things that you might not be able to remember as like crystal clear and sharp looking.
Agree. So even though your family plans the stuff and you've kind of mentioned your interest in kind of the culture in Japan and some foods and things, when you're going to a location, what are you looking for? Like, what does your mom already know? I need to include this for Luna. Luna will love this. Is it hiking? Is it amusement parks? Is it beaches, history, libraries? What's your jam?
So usually it's things like places that are very historically rich because I am a lover of the history. All right. Um, so we usually try to go places that have well one really good like nature in the area because nature is just so important. But also having like historical monuments and stuff like that and museums. Museums are very very big for me, especially when we're in bigger cities. Like there has to be a museum nearby because I need to go to the museum, and I don't care what kind of museum it is. I just need to go to it and soak up whatever is there. But history is very big in our family, so that's always been something that's very important.
I love that. I too enjoy the museums. So, less so the art museums. If it is a very specifically special art museum, like the Metropolitan Museum of Art in New York, yes, I will go to something like that. But, or if there's some sort of special thing, but I love the history museums. I love all the artifacts. I love all the things. And I love learning more about the culture and history that way for sure. Um, we had one young man on the podcast who loves water parks, and like he likes to go to like different water parks and things like so. Everybody's got their own fun thing that they love to go to and love to look into. Um, so now that we're kind of starting to talk about trip stories and trip memories, what is your favorite trip memory?
Oh, let me think. My my favorite trip memory would have to be it's an older memory, but it's like it was actually when I was in Costa Rica last. Um, we were in a little city. It's Cahuita. It's a little farther away from here, actually, and we were staying in the general vicinity for a little while. I was 7, so I don't remember all the details, but there is a national park around there, and still at a younger age, I always loved nature because nature is nature and it's awesome. Um, so we were taking a tour, like a hike, basically. It was kind of like near the beach. It was in the middle of like the jungle. It was really beautiful. Um, and they have so many monkeys here, as you can imagine. They are very. There's a lot of them. They're everywhere. So this path was like just absolutely it's just very inhabited with capuchin monkeys who are very devious and can sometimes be a bit territorial, as you can imagine. So when one stomps in another's jungle or territory, it can be a bit what's the word? Just a bit exciting. There's some excitement in the air. So we see these monkeys and they just kind of give us a little bit of a stare down. And there's like almond trees around us. They're just like um hanging down like above our heads and stuff like that. It's just like very full of almonds. And one thing kind of leads to another, and we start getting pelted with almonds, and there's a lot of monkeys like running around and stuff and picking up almonds and just like absolutely like destroying us. And I think that was kind of like one of the main trip memories that like will always be in the back of my mind, because people will talk about monkeys or almonds or something like that, and I'd be like, oh, remember that time we were in Costa Rica?
And the monkeys threw the almonds.
Mm.
I love it. My experience with monkeys is a little bit different. We were in Bali at the Sacred Monkey Sanctuary, and I had one jump on my back, but I wanted it to. So
Mm.
I kept hoping, like, they're like, okay, just, if they jump on you, it's possible. Just, stand still. Don't be afraid. Don't scream. And like, I'm going to scream from excitement, not from fear. And a girl had a monkey jump on her, and she was like, "Wah!" And I was like, oh, please jump on me. Please jump on me. One came over and pulled on my husband's t-shirt. I was like, oh, we're getting closer. We're getting closer. And I would like position myself near their snack areas in the hopes that if I sat really still, they'd come and stand on me. And we get to this one spot, and they're crossing from kind of one little area to another along a bridge. They're walking on the handrail of the bridge. So I squatted down with my camera to get these like eye level pictures of these adorable Balinese long-tailed monkeys making
Hmm.
their way towards me on the bridge, but I'm just next to it. Well, one sure enough does come walk, get his picture, and then he steps onto my back. And I'm like, Stephen, 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 because I can't like get a picture of this or a video or anything. And everyone around me is like, it's okay, just relax. I'm like, no, get my husband. I have to have this on recording. And so finally, he's looking at a baby monkey like 10 feet away. So finally, they get him. And the monkey just hangs out there, thankfully, long enough and sits on my back and on my shoulders and eventually puts his little paw on my head right by my eyes and like holds onto my face. I mean, I was smart enough to close my eyes, but so I didn't get monkey face, monkey poked in the eye. But it was so amazing. And then there's the video of me as it climbs down looking like, I'm so excited. So it's definitely one of my most favorite memories, but it was not throwing almonds or anything else at me. So I can imagine it's a very different memory for you.
I think monkeys, like we've been to a lot of different places that have a lot of them. They're very, very monkey rich places. So I have a lot of memories of monkeys doing something that is either very sweet and adorable or something that is very like, oh my god, how did that even happen? Um there's a lot of monkeys in my trip memories.
I love it. So if you feel comfortable sharing, what is your worst trip memory?
Oh, I think whenever you travel, there's always going to be that select few like times that were just really rough and like just really just not fun. Whether it's days like spending like hours and hours like at border control, or if it's like getting stuck in the airport for several hours without being able to go to like any places more comfortable. I think there's always going to be, if you're a traveler, there's always going to be those days that everyone hopes won't happen, but you know they will in the back of your mind, because it's, it's traveling, and it's always going to be like not according to plan. There's always going to be that like that one time that's just like really sucky, and you just kind of have to get past it, because like, if you want to get to the good part, like there's always going to be a time after that. But that one time is always just really cruddy, and like you just kind of have to get past it. So for me, I don't know if there's actually one like worst trip memory. To be honest, I think there's a few, because we've done so much traveling that like there's just a lot of different times that were not preferable. um like this past time, like coming here, or rather going into Panama. The Panama border like changes what their like restrictions are to coming into the country like a lot. So when we were planning the trip, they didn't have like we didn't need to get tested for COVID. Like it wasn't in their like necessary like list of things you need to do. So we had like health passes and things, and we like tried going on a bus to get us like to the border and past it. And they were like, do you have like negative COVID tests like on sheets that are like 42 hours since the last time you got tested? And we were all like, what? It didn't say we needed that. And then so like my dad is over there talking to the lady at the travel station, like really confused. So then we stay in Puerto Viejo, which is actually where we are right now, but it's been a while. However, we were there in town because that's where like we drove into, so that we could go on a bus and then get to a pier. And we just kind of stayed here for like a night, and then we ended up going to a pier, and then we made it to, oh my gosh, where did we go after that? It's still like fuzzy, and it was like a month ago. So we like basically after that we get to the border, and there's just like a lot of like commotion and stuff, and then so we have to cross the bridge by foot because like you can't go over by car unless you're like bringing something like whether it's like a shipment, I guess. So you kind of have to go by foot. And we go over, and they're like, you still need the COVID forms. Because when we were in the town, we got tested, but they were too old. So by the time we got there, like the tests like just were expired by like 2 hours. And they
Oh,
were like, no, no, you can't come. You have to go to get tested again. So we
oh,
go back to the area that's like they have at border control. They have like a little medical station and stuff like most do. And so they were like, okay, you go down there and you can test it. And the doctor wasn't in apparently. So they took her like they gave us like the temperature check and stuff, and we sit around waiting. Like on the Panama side of the border, it's probably about 90 something degrees, and like the sun is blazing. Like it is
oh,
absolutely like crazy heat that like will give you a heat stroke if you stand in it for too long.
wow.
So we're just kind of standing there like trying to go from one foot to another, like just waiting. And so eventually we do get the tests, and the doctor comes in like 3 hours freaking later. We get the test, then we go and we have to sit and wait for them to like be ready. And wow, crazy, none of us had COVID. So we had to sit at the other side of the border for like another, what is like maybe like an hour, like an hour and 30, somewhere around there. And eventually, like the entire day has gone by, and so then we finally are able to get in a bus and then go to our destination. But that whole day was just like super memorably cruddy.
Oh, I'm sure. That sounds memorably cruddy. Wow. Yeah, we're getting ready to go international for the first time since 2019. And we are going to be
Ooh.
going to several places. I don't know where. It is a surprise for my 40th birthday in the month of August. But Stephen has planned it, and we do have to get a COVID test like every week or something because we're going to be going to different
Mm,
places. So, yeah.
yeah.
And we're vaccinated and everything, but we know that that's part of the deal with having to go internationally. So we're okay with it. But I know it's frustrating when you think it's fine and you don't need it, and then you do need it. Like that's a different thing than being like, okay, we know we need to get that done and bring it with us. So yeah, definitely the
Mhm.
unpredictability of border crossings can be real frustrating. Mm-hmm. So do you have any other funny or interesting stories that maybe aren't your best or your worst that you'd still like to share?
There's another like short story that does relate to monkeys actually.
Okay.
Since you like them so much, I might as well indulge in another one. So like when we were in Thailand, uh, oh my gosh, what year was that? It's like 2 years ago. Because it was before COVID. It was pre-COVID. So like my sense of time is very like confused at the moment since everything is like so all over the place. We had like several years where we just like didn't do anything because a worldwide pandemic happened. We were in Thailand. We were in like a temple area, and it was like in a mountain. And there is a lot of monkeys because the mountain, like this mountain, is covered in trees and jungle, and rainforest. So there's so many monkeys there. And to get up to the temple, there's like there's hundreds of steps, like hundreds of them. And this area is like super beautiful. I don't remember what it's called, but it's like kind of a monument. Um, and there's monkeys like everywhere you look. So we go up to the temple, and then we stay there for like 45 minutes, and then we start going down. And we take a break to take some monkey pictures because, like, why not? And we're sitting on the steps, and there's this lady who has like sat down. Her purse is like next to her, and she's just kind of sitting there on her phone. And those little purses that are like, they have like little latch that's like metal, and you like twist it, and then you can lift the flap up. She has like one of those, right? And there's a monkey that's like next to her and like kind of creeping around. And so I start watching because I like, I kind of like to see monkeys do really crazy, kind of stupid things that usually end in tragedy, or little tiny disasters that cause a lot of people to flock around. I like to see stuff like that because they're funny memories.
Yes.
So this monkey comes up to this lady's purse, and I'm like, "What are you doing?" And it starts fidgeting with the little lock, and she's not paying any attention because she's on her phone. And it's fidgeting with the lock, and I just see it like momentarily like flick the lock open and like lift up the purse flap and like snatch something out of there, and it's paper. I'm like, what is that? And so my sister is watching at this point, and we're like, oh my god, that is money out of a little like brown packet, like kind of like those little brown cardboard like smaller like linky packages. And we were like, oh my god, that's for money. So we're just kind of having a stare down with it. We're like, ma'am, that monkey, it has your money. And she's like, oh my god. So my sister does the brave thing and goes and like has a fight with this monkey to go grab that packet back. And so there's a little bit of a tussle, and the monkey gets scared away. But then we later find out that little tiny packet had like all of this lady's trip money in it. So we just thankful that we got it back beforehand. It's still a couple dollars, but like I think it just got disinterested because it's just paper that's really like boring. But I think that was kind of like one of the funnier, like, I'm
That's
just glad
amazing.
that we were able to like save the situation after.
Yeah, I'm so glad you were watching that little stinker monkey. Oh, what? Oh my gosh. No, I've never been pickpocketed by a monkey, but that's amazing. Maybe I'll just leave $1 out in hopes that maybe I will get pickpocketed by a monkey for the story alone, but not all my trip money. I'm Shae Pepper, the traveling teach. At the time of this recording, I am on a 5-year, 50-state road trip around the US. Although with COVID, it's going to end up being 6 or 7 years. Darn you, COVID. But I travel full time with my husband, Steven, and our dog, Truffles. I'm a professional youth worker and online educator. I'm passionate about learning on location and want to bring that experience to as many young people as possible through my virtual field trips. To learn more about my travels and online classes, go to thetravelingteach.com. To follow Truffles' travels, our trip from her perspective, which I am sure is infinitely more interesting to most of you than I am, go to @TrufflesTravelsUS on Instagram. To be a guest, tween, or teen on the podcast, just reach out at thetravelingteach.com/contact. This has been an episode of For Traveling Teens, a podcast for teens and tweens who love travel, whether they're actively traveling or just dreaming.